Hey everyone, welcome to our third podcast. We're going to talk about what it takes to become a champion. We're going to first start off with setting goals. So Steven, what do you feel like are the most, important aspects of setting goals?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when you're trying to be the best at the top level, or be a champ, you definitely need to set goals, because what will happen is if I don't set goals, it becomes very easy to say, I can take today off, or I can show up to practice and not work that hard, or I have a bad match and I get frustrated and I got nothing to come back to refocus, to get back in the room and practice. So for me, what I did when I was trying to set goals is, I had a lot of people that would say, set realistic goals. And I personally think that's a bad idea. You shouldn't be setting goals that you're going to achieve. I shouldn't say it that way.
That are easy to achieve.
Yeah. Your bare minimum goal should be state champ. It doesn't matter if it's your first day of wrestling. You should be wrestling to win and wrestling to take first place. And if you're training, if your ultimate goal is just to be the starter on the team, then you're holding yourself back. You're going to hold yourself back in practice because you're like, I don't have to work that hard. I'm just trying to be the starter. So certainly setting goals and setting high goals. For me, when I was training, when I started getting into college, my goal, my freshman year, was I want to be an All-American. That was kind of like, that's my goal. I want to be an All-American. I want to get a plaque. And as I started going towards the middle half of my college career, I had a coach basically help me refocus, to reset my goals, to dream and to shoot after bigger goals. So rather than, why would I be training and putting all this work in just to take top 8? Shouldn't you be training to win? You're working just like the other guy is. So just setting a high goal is going to help you to stay focused and help you to not sell yourself short.
Now, you had the goal of being a national champ your senior year, and everybody has that general goal. I wanted to be a national champ as well. What other types of goals did you have that allowed you to kind of focus a little more, or allowed you to kind of achieve those maybe smaller goals or different types of goals? Like for me, I wanted to get the most pins.
Yeah.
You maybe speak to takedowns if that's kind of something you did.
Yeah, certainly. So there's definitely different types of goals. So for example, there's that end goal, national champ or state champ if that's the end of season. There's that season goal. I want to be a state champ. I want to be a national champ. There's other goals like I want to go undefeated. I want to have the most takedowns on the team. I want to have the most pins, or I want to get OW at these certain tournaments. It could be every single tournament you have, but those are kind of almost like checkpoints. So if I want to be a national champ, how do I need to be performing throughout the entire year so that when it comes time for nationals, I've built up my confidence in achieving these milestones, these smaller goals. So it's like, okay, well, if I've got the most takedowns on the team, I've got the most pins, I've won every tournament. When I go into nationals, if that's where I put myself, I'm going to feel very good about my training and what I've done so far. If I have no goals, then what can happen is I go into nationals and you're not really it's hard to build up your confidence.
Yeah.
Because you haven't really achieved any of the things you wanted to going into nationals.
Yeah, I definitely found that difficult for me. For me, I didn't achieve a lot of my smaller goals, and in my opinion, it held me back going into the national tournament. I, had this kind of I want to win. Can I a little bit too everybody's gonna have doubt, right? Everybody's gonna have a little bit of doubt, but you definitely want to battle that with success. In those smaller goals, I was able, you were able to get the most takedowns in the history of your team. You're able to get the most techs out of any single division that year, right? and that kind of mentality of domination, and those goals helped you to kind of be more prepared for the national tournament. And what about
Certainly.
you with the what was it like when you told your coach you wanted to get the most takedowns in the team?
Yeah, so I remember actually telling my coach, so I was getting ready for my first competition. So in the year before, I had maybe 80 something takedowns in the season. I think I had maybe 1 or 2 techs. So it was like, here I am after having 80 takedowns. I come to the coach and say, hey, listen, I'm going to break the record. And the coaches are like, all right, buddy, like, come on. You're not like,
Yeah.
They saw, okay, last year this is where you were. So this year, based on like some sort of projection,
Yeah.
some standard projection, that this is where you're probably going to be.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the coaches saying like, oh, what you should really do is try to beat the takedown record for everyone except for the guy Ruberg, who had the most takedowns.
Because he was way ahead of everybody else.
He was
essentially.
almost double the takedowns anyone else had. So it's kind of like, it was like, dang, like why would I try to
get second?
Yeah, why? That's not even like might as well. I'm not saying might as well not do it, but why not just? It takes the same amount of effort to just make your goal a little higher.
Yeah.
So I remember going to the first tournament, and I think I had in the first 2 weeks, I think I'd gotten like 80 or 100 takedowns. So in the first 2 weeks of competition, I had more takedowns than I did the entire season the year before. And it wasn't necessarily, it was a lot better, but I knew if I was trying to chase after the most takedowns, which was I don't know what it was exactly at the time, but 200 and something, or
Yeah.
so if I'm trying to get to that, where do I need to be week after week in order to get there, so that I'm not going to the national tournament being like, hey, I need 100 takedowns in the national tournament. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
So it's like you set your goals, and then you're making sure, hey, am I on track?
Yeah.
And even I could have even small goals, like a goal could be to not miss a practice all season, or to not miss a lift or a stretch, or so those are little ones. That's like, it's not a matter of an outcome. It's like, it's basically, are you showing up and doing what you're supposed to be doing?
And I think those are a lot of people break up goals in different ways, but I think those 3 levels could maybe make sense for somebody. The first level is those practice kind of goals where you're like, I'm gonna, at the end of every lift, I'm gonna do 10 minutes of cardio. Mm-hmm. Or, for live, I'm gonna go with, my coach every or once a week, I'm gonna wrestle live with my coach.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got these practice goals, that's gonna help you. It's not an outcome. It's just you just do it.
Yeah.
It's just totally effort, and then you can have these other goals, which I think definitely help. Find something you're good at. If I was pretty good at pinning. I wanted to pin. And Steven very good at takedowns. That's what he wanted to do. And then always have that final goal be higher than you. As high as you can dream of it.
Yeah, and that's a good point with those, and that's kind of what both of us are on the same page with our athletes. It's really not to put limits on yourself, and a lot of times like people will put limits on themselves, or sometimes it could be a parent that puts a limitation on a kid, or a friend, or even another teammate. So, with us being on the same page, it's easy for us to say, okay, to talk to our athletes, what are your goals? And then when they're like, oh, my goal is to be varsity. Well, it's like, okay, that can be a goal, but there needs to be something beyond that, because not that that's not a good thing. Yeah, it's great. You want to be varsity. But we need to add on to that, because a lot of times if you're the varsity guy, if you can make it to varsity, then heck, you can make it to states. And if you can make it to states, maybe you can place. And if you can place, why not be setting your goal to win? So certainly that is a big aspect of it.
For sure. All right. So after you've kind of set your goal, what's another aspect of, that helped you become successful in wrestling?
Yeah. So the second part is going to be finding the right coach or the right coaches. And this would be, like, for example, with wrestling, let's say we have someone from our club, someone at Iron Faith comes, and we've got you, me, we've got Coach Salois, and each of us have a different style. So what will happen is we get an athlete that comes in, and even within the club, you need to find a coach that you connect with the most, or even just someone that is going to maybe give you a little more attention, or someone that your style matches up with. A lot of times it's going to be a style thing.
Yeah.
And then once you pick that coach, it's almost like you don't have to worry about trying to come up with your own solutions to the questions you have. Like what should I be doing on top? It's really simple. Let's say you're the coach I trust. All I do is I walk up to the coach. Hey, what should I be doing on top? You show me what to do. I do it, and that's the end of that.
Yeah.
I don't have to go, let me think about it. Should I really do it or should I not? Or now I'm going to go to the next coach and ask him. And then he shows me something a little different. Now it's like, okay, well, now what do I do? You have two options.
Yeah.
And then it's on the athlete to pick. It's like, just go to one coach that you trust and you ask him, and when he gives you an answer, just do it and just fully trust it. And that's how you're going to jump levels very, very fast.
Yeah, I think trusting your coach is huge. I think there's a lot of athletes who maybe think they've had success, maybe they think they know more, or if you're that athlete and you think you know more than that coach and you can't really trust them, you might want to find a different coach in a lot of ways. You want to find a coach that you look up to, that you can fully trust, you believe that they can take you to the level you want to get to, you believe in their technique.
Yeah.
Because you don't want that distrust. It's not gonna work out very well for yourself.
Yeah, and even going on that, like with trusting your coach, one of the ways to make sure you're finding a coach you trust. What is it about them that they trust? Okay, he's been there and done the things I'm trying to do, right? If I'm trying to be a national champ, maybe I'm looking for a coach that's been a national champ.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm looking for a coach that's coached national champs. Or something along the lines of that. And then on top of that, it's like, if I'm the best guy in the room, I'm not saying you should up and leave and go train somewhere else. But, let's wrestle the coaches.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes you might be like, I'm the best guy in the room, and then you go to wrestle the coach and he just beats the crap out of you, and you're like, okay, well now, I got to start asking him some more questions.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, you touched on that kind of, you want to have that main coach. I do think having multiple coaches is good as well. It's really a balance, You don't want to be confused by coaches. You don't want to have one coach, teaching you underhooks, the other coach teaching you Russians, and now you don't really know what to do when you get out there on the mat. But the main coach kind of thing, and then having these other coaches can give you different perspectives, but you still have that main coach who kind of like almost like an override. Like, he knows you, he knows your style, and you're gonna grow with him throughout your career. So, and the part of the athlete, so the part of the coach, he's gonna. This is just the weird thing. People don't understand how important the coach is. The coach is so important. It is easily 50-50 coach and wrestler. It is easily.
Yeah, I mean, think of it with you see it especially with the college level. It's like the athletes will continue to come and go. Every 4 years or 5 years, depending on their red shirt, they're in, they're out, and a new guy's in.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking, let's say when you're looking for a college program to go to, you're looking for one that, if you're trying to be a national champ, you're looking for one that's been producing national champs, or maybe you're looking for one that has a team that's rising really fast, and maybe a nice thing with that is that coach is going to put a little more time into you or something like that. But you need to go and find the coaches that are doing and producing what it is that you're looking for.
Yeah, and that, even out of all this stuff, out of everything we're going to go through today, in my opinion, this is the main thing. It's get a coach you can trust, because he'll tell you all these things. He'll tell you to set goals. He'll help you set your goal. He'll help you, even with the last thing we talked about when we talked about recruiting, he'll help you with the recruiting. He'll help you, with setting your lifting schedule and what to eat.
Yeah.
But you really got to find, that coach. And, if you can, the coach is. So like you can get experts in different things, right? So
Certainly.
for lifting, you may go to a different coach, right? So who?
Yeah. So I didn't really get serious into lifting until I think towards the beginning of my junior year of college when I started lifting with Lee Stamus. So basically, until then, I fell in this pattern of I'd lift for a bit, either I'd start cutting weight and stop lifting, or I'd miss a week, and then I'd miss 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, and then I'm back lifting again. So you end up in this cycle where you lift, and then you stop, and then you lift, and then you stop. It'd be the same if you wrestled and stopped and wrestled and stopped. Like you're only gonna get so far if you're not consistent. So when I had Lee Stamus lifting with me, one, he was a lot stronger than me, especially when I first started lifting with him. There was a lot of things I'm like sitting there, I'm trying to bench or whatever it is, and I'm finishing up my warm up set. I'm finishing up my max set of 10 or something, and he puts on another plate and he keeps going, and I'm just looking at him like, you have got to be kidding me. So when I see that, I'm like, man, if he can do it, when you see somebody doing it, it makes it like I can throw more weight on and make it happen.
Yeah.
And there was plenty of times where like we lift not super early. We lift in the morning, like 7 in the morning or 7, 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it like missing a lift wasn't really an option. It would never cross my mind to like miss, to like just not show up to a lift.
Yeah.
So that's the other part, and he was basically he's another person with a set of eyes on me, keeping track to make sure I'm showing up, make sure I'm putting in effort, making sure I'm eating right. So he kind of had all those things. I had essentially another coach that could take care of the lifting, the eating, maybe some of that conditioning. It's another coach to help with your mindset.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of creating a team. I think the bigger the team you can have, the more people that you have on your side, the better you're going to be. I mean, Conor McGregor talked about that, where he was like, he made this transition with his training, and he made this comment, I have this team now. Like this person's going to help me with nutrition. This person's going to help me with lifting. This person's going to help me with boxing. And you have all these different, other coaches. So
did you have that at Drexel?
Yeah, I mean, essentially we had, I had a main coach I worked with, and then, we had a head coach, 2 assistant coaches, a volunteer coach. Our volunteer coach was getting his PhD in nutrition at the school, and he would help with all the nutrition aspect. I had a weightlifting coach. If you needed help with like a mental game, we had a psychologist kind of like in-house. But it's a lot of people have the tools,
Yeah.
but in order to get these get the most advantage out of these relationships, the athlete really has to almost get the coach to buy into you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. If you're going to the coach, right? You're like, this is my coach. I want him to be invested in me. Then you go and ask him more questions. You go and you text him outside of practice. Hey, what should I eat? How should I train?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of you got to show your effort. A lot of people are like, oh, why isn't the coach paying attention to me? Right?
Yeah.
Why isn't the coach focusing on me? Normally, the athlete has to do the first part of it. And then right when you build that connection and you're like, hey coach, I want to be a national. If a kid came up to me in the club and was like, I want to be a national champ and I'll do whatever it takes to become a national champ and I need you, then I'm bought into this kid and we'll go very far. And so I think like, if you do have access to somebody that can maybe knows more about lifting than your wrestling coach, use that for your lifting. If you know somebody for nutrition, use that for nutrition.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, build that team.
Yeah, and even with that, it like you might have like there's different styles of coaching. There's different coaches, like a weightlifting coach and a wrestling coach. There's also different styles. You might have one coach that's pretty laid back.
Yeah.
You might have one coach that's a little more intense. You might have a coach that gets you fired up. So having like you said, like a team of people will help you get all the different types of coaching you need. When you have like, when I went out to national duels my senior year, and I went out and lost a match, and I just felt like, man, like nothing was really working for me in that match. Like I got my shot, I shot, and he ended up, I didn't score, and then he shot, he ended up scoring on it, and I was just like, I was frustrated, so I ran off the mat, and I was just like, I was so mad. And I remember Louis Felix running up to me, and at the time he was one of the volunteer assistant coaches.
Yeah.
He runs up to me and like, he like essentially doesn't let me leave. He grabs me and starts talking to me and be like, we can't, like, essentially you can't let that loss throw you off for the rest of the day. Because I was just mad that I didn't get the outcome I wanted.
Yeah.
But he was making sure to say, hey, listen, there's still more matches left in the day. And if I check out and I'm pissed off or I'm, feeling sorry for myself, then when that next dual meet comes around another hour and I don't wrestle the way I need to wrestle, our team might lose. So he was immediately on me to help me bounce back and get back after it for that next match.
Yeah. So you guys find these coaches like Louis Felix was for you, and like Matt Azevedo was for me, and Coach Schaefer. I had that variety of coaches, one that was more intense, one that would be there for you after a loss. Find these coaches, seek them out. That's your job as the athlete, and then once you find that coach, it's the coach's job to kind of teach you everything, give you all the tools, and you're going to supply that effort. So I guess we can move into kind of the effort. What does it take on the athlete's part to, win?
Yeah. So the effort is normally going to be, it's more than you think. And there's levels, like Jordan Burroughs talks about it after he wrestled Askren when he beat him. He's like, there's levels to it.
Yeah.
So there is certainly levels, and there's levels to your intensity in training. So I remember jumping levels in high school when I essentially thought I was training hard. I went out to nationals at Virginia Beach, and I went 1-2, and I was like, I got to train way harder. Like it was really one of my first times getting outside of the Northeast to like wrestle a top level tournament. And I didn't really realize how good people were. So that was one, like I went and wrestled that, and immediately after that, my intensity went up. And it doesn't take losing for your intensity to go up. Like don't wait till that happens. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to go out and get my butt whooped so I get better.
Get fired up or something.
No, it is so much better to win. Like I would much rather have won and then, increase my training then too. Yeah. So sometimes people talk about like a loss being the Kickstarter into their training hard. My second round of leveling up, and I had little ones where I would like come back from a tournament, I do well, and I'm going to train harder. But was when I started training with Clark Summit. I did a lot of private lessons, and I remember my senior year, we had the option to wrestle at one of the college tournaments. It was an open tournament. And I remember my coach messaging me like, hey, are you going to wrestle? And I was like, I got to cut weight, this and that. And I was talking to one of the guys on the team who didn't want to wrestle. So I was talking to someone who didn't want to wrestle, and they a little bit convinced me, like, let's just take the day off and we'll just help out in the tournament. And so then I text Clark, hey, I'm not going to be wrestling tomorrow. Because he was going to come watch. Hey, I'm not going to be wrestling tomorrow. So he sends me back a message, says, all right, if you're not wrestling, I have some lessons set up for you. So he sends me the schedule with like, I think it was like 5 or 6 lessons. And I'm like, that is so much harder than wrestling this tournament. Like, let me just cut weight and wrestle this tournament because I do not want to do those lessons. And then the next day after the tournament, I had some lessons, but that was one of them for me. So it doesn't take losing to kick up your intensity. Do it now. Don't wait until you lose in state finals. You don't need to wait that long.
Yeah, and one thing I want to talk about a little bit is kind of the training in Division III, training in Division I, what you went through, what I went through, and also like just the aspect of that's not enough still. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing what everybody else is doing, it's not like, oh, I'm going to do what everybody else does in D3. Then how are you going to become the best in D3?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how are you going to become the national champ?
Yeah.
So explain your general practice schedule, what the program had for you, and explain what those additional things you did your senior year.
Yeah, so the regular schedule was broken down to, practice and then competition. And we were only allowed, in Division III, you're only allowed to wrestle during the season. Whereas Division I, there's some other things you can do outside of the room. So we had our set season, and we pretty much had practice every day except we needed 1 day off a week. It was actually you need 2 days off every 2 weeks, but essentially you get 1 day off a week. So we're going Monday through Saturday and you get Sunday off. Or we're going, through Sunday and you get Monday off. So if we competed Saturday, Sunday, we come back, we get Monday off, and then we practice again Tuesday.
Yeah.
And our practice is pretty standard, about 2 hours. As season goes, it kind of cuts down to an hour and a half. But for me, that was not even like the practice in the room was not like everything. That wasn't my entire season was revolved around just those room practices.
Yeah.
I would go practice. I would leave when practice ended. So I'd practice hard. I'd leave. I'd go and eat, and then I would immediately go to club practice after that. So I was practicing twice a day, every single day, pretty much no matter what. And if I wasn't practicing twice a day, I was practicing more than that. Yeah. So on my off days, my day, like let's say I go Monday through Sunday, I compete on Sunday.
Yeah.
When I come back, or I compete on Saturday.
Yeah.
If I come back, Sunday's off for the team, I was doing lessons.
So your days off were normally more wrestling than any other day of the week.
Yeah, my day off was the day of competition. My easiest day of training was the day of competition. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to have a schedule like that.
Yeah.
But for where I was and what I was trying to accomplish, I was far behind where I wanted to be. So I had a goal of national champ.
Yeah.
And
in the previous year, did you win a match, or you?
Previous year, I went 1-2 at nationals.
And you want to go from that to have the most takedowns in the team, to have the most techs in
Yeah.
every single division, and to win a national title.
Yeah, and so I set my schedule accordingly. I didn't let's say if my goal is to be a national champ and I'm a fifth grader.
Yeah.
By no means does a fifth grader need to be training that hard.
Yeah.
That would be you're gonna burn out.
Yeah.
A fifth grader or a sixth grader, middle school kid might be wrestling 2 to 4 times a week, depending on whether they do some lifting. You're lifting 2 to 4 times a week. And again, if they want to train more, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got a little more time.
Yeah.
So you don't need to, it's not like you need to get it all done right now.
Yeah.
So I was in a situation where it's like, this is where I'm trying to get to, and I don't want to finish my season, look back and be like, man, I should have trained harder. Like
Yeah.
I truly believe, I don't think there was a person in the world wrestling as much as I was my senior year.
Yeah.
And maybe there was, but I had to believe I was working harder than anybody else.
Yeah.
If I didn't believe it, then it would have, cut my confidence down.
I mean, yeah, for sure. And so your season, how long's the season? Season's the same?
Season's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe like a week or 2 less, but
Yeah.
pretty much season's the same.
So I guess the difference with Division I versus Division III, I wouldn't say the wrestling practices are much different. Not the intensity. It's really the length. So the length of the season, or the length of the wrestling. When
Yeah.
I go into wrestling, there isn't really an off season. There is for cutting weight, which is really nice, but you are training for 5. You go into my program, I had 5 years of training with the team.
Yeah.
In D3, the season ends, you have off, you have the option to train, people go back home, do what you want.
And certainly the best guys are training.
And
most guys are training, but you get more of that team aspect.
Yeah, the team. We have continued scheduled wrestling and lifting throughout the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
So D1, you have continued scheduled wrestling and lifting, and most or all Division I programs have mandatory lifting and
Team lift.
team lift. Yeah, some D3 programs I'm sure do, or D2, and I'm sure some of them do, but for D1 you have mandatory. So that's kind of really the only difference. And the same thing with me. I knew, I would lift, wrestle, and I knew have one practice, one lift, and I knew that wasn't enough, right? So I did the same thing. I did the extra practices. Tried to, and not only did I do the extra practices, I really tried to schedule it, I didn't want to just do random practices. That was part of my goal. We talked about goals earlier. My goal was after every lift to get a half an hour drill in with my with my friend after I did lift, right? And to even connect to all three together, anytime you're doing those extra practices, I highly recommend having a coach in there.
Yeah. I'm with you on that for sure.
So I think one of the things that I could have done better that maybe would have brought me to a even higher level of wrestling was if every single one of my extra practices, I asked my coach to be there, and I had another set of eyes on me, all my little details would have been fixed up a lot quicker. So I think it's very important if you can, you're doing these extra practices, try and have a coach there.
And that might mean a private lesson. In college, it's a little different, but you might have a certain coach you like that runs you through essentially a private lesson.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with the club scene, it's you've either wrestling with the coach one-on-one, or your two kids are wrestling, the coach is overseeing. And I see that is where kids make a big jump a lot of times, is those, that private time with the coach where the coach is watching and able to continually, help say, hey, head position here, or whether it's building confidence. A lot of times coaches will, when they're walking around the room, sometimes it's oh, that's a bad shot. Oh, that's not a good sprawl. Oh, that's bad. This is bad. And it's that doesn't, as much as it might help to correct something that's wrong, it's also really, really important to let them know what they're doing right.
Yeah.
So, for the way I run a lot of my lessons, we're going to spend some time on improving some of the wrong things, but almost it's more every time I see something good, that's where you got to point it out.
Yeah.
A good head position, kid takes a shot, that's good head position.
Yeah.
Or great finish. And essentially, instead of just letting you know everything you do wrong, I'm letting you know what you're doing right. So now as you're wrestling, you're knowing where should I be going to, not what should I not be doing.
Yeah, for sure. So, we talked about these three kind of main things. I think you got to set that goal. I think in my opinion, the number one thing is the relationship between a coach and an athlete. And everything after that kind of flows. If the athlete really wants to win and the coach knows what he's doing, that's when you're going to become a champion.
Yeah,
so,
certainly. And even off of that, with your schedule, like you were saying, your schedule needs to be set. It's not I'm texting people at 5 o'clock trying to find anybody to wrestle with at 6.
Yeah.
That is not a schedule. A schedule is club practice is Tuesday, Thursday. I'm there every Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
On Monday and Wednesday, I lift. On Friday, I get an extra stretch in. And Saturday I'm practicing, or Saturday, Sunday off, depending on whatever your schedule is. It's set. It's not random. When it's random, it becomes 2, 3, 4 weeks go by and you didn't do what you're supposed to do. So keeping a consistent schedule will keep you on track to get after the goals you want. And where the coaches come into play is they may help you set that schedule, and also they're going to make sure you're on track. If a week goes by and kids are missing practice, a lot of times they're going to reach out, hey, how's it going? What's going on?
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be hey, I jammed my finger and I can't come to practice. I broke my finger. Or it might be hey, I got sick, or I'm on vacation, or whatever it is. As long as it's not you basically, I'm going to make sure that they're staying on track, because if they're set a schedule and they have a goal and something is taking them off the wrong direction, it's kind of my job to help. All right, let's get back on track. Let's remind ourselves of what our goals were that we set earlier in the season.
Yeah. So, if you want to know any more details, on setting goals, or kind of scheduling your practices, you definitely, put something in the comment or
Yeah.
you know, shoot us a message. We can help you schedule. You know, we can definitely help you schedule with wrestling. We could even help with lifting. You know, but
Yeah.
you know,
So it's really, again, it's set your goals, find the right coaches, and get on the right schedule.
Yeah.
And that alone is going to deal with a lot of the issues kids have.
for sure. All right.
Alrighty.